Deshaun Watson led the NFL in passing yards in 2020, despite being on quite frankly, a bad team in the Houston Texans. Now he wants out. Where do fantasy football players want to see Deshaun Watson land next? Here with me, SI fantasy analysts Michael Fabiano and Corey Parson. Fabs, I'm going to start with you. If you had to choose for the best fantasy football outcome possible, where should Deshaun Watson go?
Well, are we talking fantasy or reality here? If we're talking in the fantasy world, imagine Watson with the New Orleans Saints, but their cap situation is an absolute disaster right now. So I don't see that happening. So let's go to San Francisco. Now, the Niners, they might not have the overall draft capital to make a deal happen, but they could ship Jimmy Garoppolo to Houston in a deal with some draft picks. And keep in mind that Garoppolo has ties with new Texas general manager Nick Caserio. He was the director of player personnel for the Patriots when Garoppolo was drafted back in 2014. I love the thought of Deshaun Watson being coached by Kyle Shanahan and being able to throw the football to Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, George Kittle. You know the backfield is going to be solid regardless of who the starter is because Shanahan's backfields have always been very fantasy friendly. So if there is a top spot for Deshaun Watson from a fantasy perspective that actually could happen, I'd say it's San Francisco.
Yeah, I think either way, if he does go to a team like the Niners, Watson probably ends up being the third quarterback drafted in 2021 leagues. Corey, let me get your opinion on this matter. Where do you think a best landing spot from a fantasy football aspect? Where should Watson go?
I think I'm probably play some words, Bill, that's never been said before, and I think the best landing spot for fantasy purpose would be the New York Jets. And I know that may take you as a surprise because we really don't get too much fantasy goodness out of the New York Jets. But just think for a minute, the New York Jets have the draft capital to go out and get Deshaun Watson. They have the cap space to go put some pieces around him, and they have the draft capital to also continue to build around him. And, like Fabiano mentioned, you love to see Deshaun Watson in a Kyle Shanahan office. Well, New York Jet offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur is a Kyle Shanahan protege. So that means those big 5, 6, 7 yards of pops from the running backs that we've seen in Kyle Shanahan offenses, we can see that in the New York Jets. And it's not like you need a super talented guy to do that. Heck, they was doing it with Raheem Mostert. So I think the New York Jets would be a very interesting landing spot for Deshaun Watson. Hey, Bill, you know what? To be honest with you fellas, New York seems to be the new landing spot for superstar athletes.
Yeah, he can follow his fellow or former Houston pro athlete James Harden, ship up right to Newark Airport and get out and be at the Jets facility in a matter of 20 minutes. All right, so the Jets and the Niners, we will keep an eye on where Deshaun Watson lands. And also Connor Orr from Sports Illustrated, he also has a top 10 list of the best potential landing spots for Deshaun Watson. Check that out on SI.com. But for more fantasy football coverage, go to SI.com/fantasy.